Welcome, all Houdini fans. Welcome to another episode of Houdini Secrets Live. I'm Chris, and I'm here to help guide you through this journey that is called Houdininess. Now, this week, we're going to start with part one of a 2-week process. Well, 2-week, maybe 3-week. I haven't really planned out the second week yet, but this is a 2-part process at least, where we're going to be talking about interactive interfaces of the digital assets. Now, digital assets are a really powerful part of Houdini, and not only are they the interface for creating really outstanding tools for artists, but they're also an interface for talking with other packages such as UE4, Unity, and even Maya. And so creating the best user interfaces is really in the best interest of everyone. And the more interactive, the more intuitive you can create your user interfaces, the better. And so what we're going to focus on this week and next week are creating better interactive interfaces for your digital assets. And we're going to start off with just the basic stuff right now. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a basic Houdini file, and I forgot to load up stuff to the GitHub server. It will be a couple files, but follow along with me the best that you can, because the rest of the stuff will be from just regular stock Houdini assets. Okay, so let's get things started. Okay, so hopefully you guys are looking at my Houdini screen right now. I'm just waiting for feedback before I get launched, and hopefully that this is all working properly. And we'll find out in just a minute or so when I get things back. Look at that kaleidoscope. Aha! Okay, so you guys can see me now, and now that you guys can't see me anymore, it's time for me to get naked. Ha 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 ha. It is very hot in my broadcast suite. I guess the air conditioning was never put into at this situation. Alrighty then. Okay, so I'm going to start off by just creating a brand new project. And this is just to have things going. I like to know where my digital assets are going to be created. So I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to go into my broadcast folder. Bum, bum, bum. Well, no, let's go there. Okay, let's call D. Bum, bum, dum. Broadcasts. Okay. Houdini Live and interactive interfaces. Okay. Grab that just in case I have that. Accept. No, I figured as much. I can't figure out this whole interface, but I'm going to put that in there. Oh no, that's not what I wanted to do. Houdini projects, okay. Interactive interfaces. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, cool. I've got that going. Okay, let me get my display desktop on. Okay, we should be good to go. All right, now we're going to be creating a lot of digital assets here. So stay with me and follow along with me the best that we can. So what we're going to do is we're going to be doing a few things. We're going to be doing, just some little basic digital assets and showing some kind of basic behavior. And then we're going to show how to create user interfaces and interactive interfaces from scratch. Oh, well, actually from by default. We're going to, Houdini's going to help us do it, but they don't really give a lot of control for it. What we're going to do is once we let Houdini do it for us a couple times, then we're going to do it by scratch. And then next week we're going to go into a concept called viewer states. Now, I didn't know what viewer states were until just recently, but I learned about them, and so I need to learn of them and I need to master them and put together a presentation for you. So look forward to that next week. Okay, so whenever you create a operator inside of Houdini, almost all operators have some kind of interface associated with them. Not all of them, but many of them do. And so you have to have access to them. And one of the most common is the transform jack. Now I'm just going to go ahead and lay down Roberto. Okay. Oops. Okay, lay down Roberto here. Let me retitle that. Okay, there's good old Roberto. Alright, now we've got Roberto going here, and we want to go ahead and animate him. So we're animating Roberto at the geometry level, or at the object level here, because he is right on the object. So we're going to, what we can manipulate here are his translate, his rotate, and his scale channels. In order to get to the jack, or to the interface device object, I'm going to open up this little pane here off to the left. And I'm going to make sure this is selected. But with Roberto selected in this port, I'm going to go ahead and put my cursor into the viewport, and I'm going to hit the enter key. And notice that the interface jack appeared. And when I move the interface jack, Roberto moves correspondingly. So with this jack, we can do translations, and rotations. And if we wanted to change that jack over to scales, we can change that over to either translations, rotations, or scales specifically. But right now it's doing both. So if I click this little button here, this goes into the translation tool. This is the rotation tool. And this is the scale tool. Okay, but we want to go ahead and deal with the jack just as is. So once again, how do you get onto this? Okay, because by default the jacks, they might turn on, or the interface devices might turn on, but they might turn off. If we click on the source object that we want, we can hit enter, and that should put us in the interface mode. Now, sometimes that doesn't work. So, what you want to do is make sure that your object that you intend to select or control is selected, and then you can come over here and click this little jack icon here. And that also turns on the interface. So either which way, this turns on the interface, and it sticks around. Now, suppose you say like, oh, I don't like the fact that this tool disappears. Like, I'm going to go ahead and click here, and my tool disappeared. You may have to go and select Roberto again, and then hit enter again, just to get back and hit. What you can do is right mouse click on the actual tool itself, and then you should be able to, see where it says persistent? If you go ahead and click that little checkbox there, then no matter what happens, either Roberto is on or off, this jack always stays present. So it never turns off. So this is, in other words, that this object is persistent. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off for demonstration purposes. And we should be going, and we're going to demonstrate how to turn Roberto there into a digital asset, and how to demonstrate its behavior. Okay, so I'm going to turn off Roberto here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with something different. Let's go work with Piggy or the Squab. Well, let's go work with a teapot. Oh yeah, I really work with a teapot. I guess I'm in a Pixar frame of mind. So I'm going to lay down a geometry node. And you notice the teapot isn't in there. And so I go ahead, click in here, and ISO surface. Click onto that. Say okay. That's not what I want. And what is it? What is it? What is it? I forgot. How about a platonic solid? Oops. There it is. I accidentally went into the, and you see it's got the interface there. And I'm going to go ahead and choose the Utah teapot. And there we go. Okay. There we go, platonic solid, and it went ahead and deleted that. So there I'm going to delete this. So we've got platonic object, and I'm going to type this in for teapot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this guide right into this whole teapot right at the geometry level, because we're going to be animating on the geometry level. I'm going to zero this out. Alright, there it is, zero again. And so what I'm going to do is right click on here, create digital asset. Okay, and I'm just going to call this transformer. And I'm going to make sure that it belongs to my project. So I'm going to click Job, HDAs. There we go. Job, HDA, transformer.hda. Click Accept. And no changes. And there is our ever popular type properties. Oh, you know what? I'm doing this wrong. I'm going to cancel this. And did this become a digital asset? It did. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that digital asset. I wanted to do something else, kind of show you a little bit how things are created here. So I'm going to go in and change things around just a bit. Now, where is my project? Okay. Oh, I created my project in the wrong place. Don't be me. Okay. Alright, well, I'm just going to leave that as is for now. I'm going to move it back over later. So, okay. I'm going to hit cancel. Actually, I'm going to go into my, what do we call this? Interactive interfaces. There we go. And then my HDA. And I cancel this, and I know where this is. So I'm going to go ahead and go to that place. No, it's different location. Alright, I store this on my Sigwin. Ha ha ha. Houdini projects, interactive interfaces, and HDAs. And I'm going to just go ahead and delete that. Okay, the reason why I wanted to do that is because we were going to embed the information. Now, suppose that I had wanted to use like refresh OCS. It says cannot. Oh, okay, I understand. Okay, I crashed Houdini. Ah! Boy, we're having a good day. Off to a great start whatsoever. Okay. Thank you with your patience, everybody. End task. Okay, and then we're going to go into psycho mode. There you can see the whole screen there. Okay, let me pull Houdini back up. Ooh, psychedelic. Already getting the weekend started early. Okay, the reason why I wanted to restart over again, gang, is because right now we were making the teapot as part of the digital asset. But I didn't want it to be part of the digital asset. I wanted it to be a separate object to be piped in. And so that's a little bit different than what we were working with before. So I'm going to go ahead and create, I'm just going to go ahead and create a brand new project altogether. And I want to set the location here. Make sure I go to my broadcast folder. And I'm going to call this project Interactive Interfaces Accept. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to go to that, and then just for giggles, I'm going to make sure to save my file, save as, and make sure it's job, and then I'm going to call this Interactive Interfaces. Alright, so I was working with the Utah teapot, so I laid down first as a platonic solid. And we could have used Roberto, we could have used a Squab or a Piggy or any of those guys. But what I wanted to use was the Utah teapot, just because we never use a Utah teapot. Okay. And it's something a little bit different. But suppose we wanted to go and then access the transformer on this and just transform, and just create a digital asset that just does nothing but transform our object, translates scales, and does a translation and rotation. Yeah. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to lay down a subnetwork here, just a subnetwork, just as it is, and I'm going to call it transformer. And then I'm going to right click on that, and I'm going to say create digital asset. Now we did this before, so we're kind of double tracking on ourselves. I'm going to go to job here, HDA, transformer HDA, click accept. Alright, cool. There we go, job HDA, transformer HDA, accept. And then here in the type properties, I want it to have at least one input and no more than one input. So I'm going to say my minimum input and my maximum inputs are going to be value over 1. And I'm going to hit apply. And I was half expecting it to give me an error. But since I don't have anything attached yet, it's not going to give me an error. But instead, I'm going to hook that up into there, so we have Platonic 1 going into our transformer node here. Press accept here, we should be good to go. Alright. I'm going to right click on here and make sure that my type properties is exposed. But I am going to push this off to the side temporarily. And then I'm going to go into the transformer network. And then from this, I'm just going to add a transform stop. No. Okay. No. So what I have to do is, okay, Platonic 1. So this is an object stop here. So Platonic 1 is going into a transformer. Okay. Alright. And then what we have to do is we have to go into a geometry stop. Okay, so let's go into this, because what we're going to do is we're going to modify. Let's see, do we want to modify this at we want to do this at the object level or at the geometry level? Big decisions. Well, let's see. I created this. Let's see, how did we create this? And Alright, so what I did was I used the transform node. So let's go ahead and inside of this, so let's create a geometry node. And I'm going to just say transform me. Okay, so basically whatever is coming through as input from our from it is going to get sent into here, and so we're going to drop into transform me, and then we have here, okay, I see what we're going to have. What we're going to do is going to do a little bit of a merge operation. So we're kind of deviating from the script here a little bit. Got to merge object here. No. Let's see. Object merge. Okay, transform object. Okay, object, and what we're going to do is we're going to go // where is our input? Okay. Output object. I'm having a little bit confusion here. So a subnetwork input number 1, platonic 1. So object. Transformer. Transform me. Okay, accept. No. Okay, so let's see. This is what happens when I deviate from this. Okay, for this case, what we're going to do is, just for brevity, I could do an op input. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to work for this right then and there, because what we have here is a node here that we can actually do the transforms on. So if we click this and if we hit the enter key, we get a transform node. Okay, so we do have a transform node, so it is sitting right on there. And now this transform jack does definitely move this object around. It definitely moves the channels around. But it doesn't move these things around. Okay. Alright, I see it. Let's see. Let's go back up. Okay, we got that. Transform me. Enter. Yeah, this isn't going to transform. It's going to create those channels. That's going to transform in there. I mean, that's a little bit backwards. Okay, a little deviation from the plans. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. Go up. And then from the transformer, let's see, okay, from the transformer, we can do this. Now let's just go ahead and do this. What the heck? Okay, oh, what should I do? Oh, indecisiveness. Let's do it at the geometry. Indecisiveness, come on. Okay, I'm going to do an object merge. Okay, I'm going to write a little script in here. I'll go up. Okay, up input. Okay, I don't remember the syntax for it. And it's not giving it to me. Okay. Alright. Alright, let's see. What is the input I'm looking for? I'm looking for H script. Input. Okay, the name and index 1. Okay. So I believe it's dot slash dot. Okay, and that's 1. And it doesn't like it. It says invalid SOP specified. Okay, that's 1 too many dashes. Oh, let's try that with 0. Nope, I think it was back where it was before. Nope, it is not having it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a hard reference into that. I'm going to come back to this a little bit later and then show you how to change this. So I'm just going to access my, and I export the relative path, and so there we go. We have the object merge, and then what I'm going to do here is just hit a transform. Sorry about all the confusion. This is highly unprofessional. And now we have this transform jack on here. So this transform jack is going to be manipulating our object inside of the SOP level, and it's going to manipulate this. So I'm going to pull out my type properties window, and I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to say export parameter to digital asset. Okay, click that, and if you see that, it outputted a whole mess of parameters to the asset here, and I'm going to click accept. And so let's see what happened. It definitely changed all of my my channels there. And look at this, all of our channels are now exposed. But when we click onto this and hit enter, we don't get an interface. So these channels do have an impact. Turn that off so we have only one object. These channels do have an impact, but there is no interface. So what I'm going to do is open up the type properties again. And I'm going to get rid of all these guys that we just created. Click apply. Are they there anymore? Nope. Okay, good. Okay, now what I want to do is I'm going to go back into there. And I want to, we've got our transform jack, and I'm going to right click onto this, and instead of going on to export parameter, I'm going to say export handle to digital asset. Now I click that, and it looks like all the exact same channels have been transformed over again. I'm going to click accept, and it looks like everything was done the same, but it looks like the handle is now persistent. I'm going to close this up. And so the handle is gone, but if I press the transformer and hit enter, my jack reappears. So now we can manipulate this object, and it is manipulating now onto the object level, inside of the SOP level. Now the reason why we're doing this is a little bit of a different modeling strategy, because notice that we have two copies of the object. We have the first platonic object, and we have our transformer object. Now our transformer object is different from here, and this is where the jack is associated with. So what this is essentially doing is it's creating a duplicate of our source geometry, and it's being able to transform that. Now this is kind of messy. This is a lot of information. We really don't need that much information. So I'm going to right click on here, go back to the type properties, and all we want are the translations and the rotations. So where it says group, get rid of them. Translate, rotations, we want them. Scale, delete. Okay, all the way through the pre-rotate transform. We're going to get rid of those. So the pivot transform, delete, 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 all the way through. Click accept. Shear, I don't want shear. Come back here. Yep, forgot to delete it. Click accept. Okay, now we have translate and rotate. And so now that's being done. It's not being done at the object level, it's being done inside of the SOP level, and our handle has direct controls over it now. So we don't have to manipulate this, but we are animating and manipulating the model directly within the SOP level here, which is a very, very powerful technique, because we don't have to, even though the digital asset, if we go ahead and lock this digital asset, so if I match current definition, this asset is now locked. But if I go ahead and grab this guy and hit enter, now I can still manipulate it, and it's still being manipulated in the SOP level. Now Houdini digital assets don't let you do that, but when you expose the parameters through some kind of external format like a handle, you can do that. So that's a very, very powerful technique. Doing this. But suppose that you wanted to create something from scratch here. And so what we did was we allowed Houdini to actually supply the information for the handle. But we want to have, we got a little bit more information than we wanted to. So what we're going to have to do is get a little bit more control than that. All right. So what we're going to do is, we're going to create a digital asset. And then once we're in the digital asset, then we're going to create some local parameters. The parameters are going to act as kind of a buffer for things. It's going to hold some information. And then once the local parameters are there, we're going to use those local parameters, and then we're going to reference the local parameters within the network itself. And then once that local parameter has been created and they've been referenced, what we're going to do is create new handles then to bind and control those new parameters. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a brand new, I'm going to turn this eye off here and turn this off here. I'm just going to create a brand new subnetwork here. And I'll have these assets for you available on the GitHub network once in a while, but I'm going to call this my Canon. Alright, I'm going to right click on that. I'm going to go create digital asset. And I'm going to call this my Canon. And I'm going to send this to my digital assets folder. So I'll get $job/HDA/mycanon.hda. I'm going to click accept. Alright, I'm going to close this for the time being. And then I'm going to go drop into my Canon. And then we're just going to work on the objects inside the object level. We're not going to deal with them inside of the into the SOP level for now. We're just going to do it very simply on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop in a file SOP. And I'm going to call this Canon body. And then I'm going to drop in here, and here's my file SOP, and I'm going to choose, I know where this is kept, and I'm going to go job, I know it's up here, there it is, Canon body. I'll click accept here, and we don't see anything. But we look on here, we have stuff on here, but look at the min and the max size on this. This is pretty big. Well, honestly, this was presented to us from Nick Zuccarello, and so this was modeled in Maya, and so it's going to be a little bit larger. So if I hit Control H, there's my Canon body. Now, you FIA students should be able to recognize this from your sorted past. And this is still pretty big, but I'm just going to leave this as is for now and just leave it as we want here. So I'm going to go up here, and for Canon body here, I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to make a duplicate here, and I'm going to call this Canon slider. And then I'm going to change the Canon slider here. So this is going to be here. This is the back part. This is the thing that slides back and forth. That's this sucker. And then we need the barrel. So I'll click on it here. Move this down over here. Barrel. All right. And then I'm going to dial in the barrel. Okay, so we have our three objects inside of our digital asset. We've got our body, we've got our slider, and we have our Canon. All right, now what I want to do is parent the body, well, the Canon slider and the Canon barrel to the Canon body, so that when my Canon body moves, it moves those other things around. So I'm going to have to move this up to here and move this up to there. Okay, so my Canon body. So when I move my Canon body, if I wanted to rotate my Canon body around, okay, this moves the whole Canon body around just fine. And that's all I really wanted. Now let's control the tilt. And now the tilt happens in the Canon barrel, and now that would take place here, and we have a little bit of a problem, Houston. We're not rotating around the right pivot point, so we have to kind of change things around and get our Canon barrel moving into the right proper direction. And so what we're going to do here is go into our Canon barrel, and I'm going to drop in a transform node. And we should have to go, I'm just going to lower this, so that it's sitting at the origin, and so this is at like a minus 35, and let's see, this should be minus 20. Okay, now let's go into our fork view to see how we're doing. Okay, I turned off my plane, but I'm just going to leave that off because I know that these numbers are pretty good. So let's go ahead and test this. So if we rotate this, does it rotate in the right direction? No, not yet. Okay, the pivot transform. We go here, center pivot. Come back here. Okay, so I was hoping that we didn't have to do this, but it looks like we're going to have to do this. I'm going to have to turn on my construction plane. Okay. Turn on my grid, display ortho grid. Alright. And now go into this. Into center pivot. And we are not quite at there yet, so I'm going to just drop this into here. I thought my values were good, but they're not good. We're not at the origin yet, so I'm going to just sink this down so that it's at the origin. And because Nick modeled this, the numbers work really nice. And this should be nice and even. Minus 40. Oh, that should be negative 40. And so this should be about negative 70. Alright, because I know that Nick modeled this. This should be nice and clean. Now, if we go back up to the other level, alright, here, now if we rotate the cannon along its x-axis, it pivots just the way we expect it to. Okay, perfect. Alright, but now that we've got the pivot in the right place, it's now pointing in the wrong direction. Well, it's not positioned in the right place. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to change its position to where it should be going. And so what we're going to do is just put a null in here. And then I'm going to say offset, barrel. And so we're going to translate this, I think 70 units in the Y, and we want to translate this 40 units in the Z, and it looks like it's back in the right location. So if we go ahead and then change this rotation, does this do it in the right way? Okay, we're rocking, folks. Excellent. Now I'm going to turn off all these because we don't need to see that anymore here. So we've got our cannon barrel and it's working pretty good. Now the only thing left is the cannon slider. Now as the barrel tilts forward and backwards, we want the slider to move backwards correspondingly. So does this work if I just translate this along the z-axis? Okay, that works. Okay, so we should be good to go with that. Alright, so let's go ahead we've got our object now. Let's go back to our digital asset and start dealing with some of those local parameters. So I'm going to right click on here, go to type properties, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a folder here and put that under root, and then I'm going to call it Canon Control, in case we forgot what we're doing here. And now we've got our Canon Control folder. We've got something that looks forward to. I'm going to drop in a float and put that into the Canon Control, and I'm going to call this float Canon Tilt. So I'm just going to call this Tilt, and Canon Tilt will be its label. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to create a pivot. And I'm going to call this Canon Pivot. Apply, accept. Okay, cool. Now, when I click on my Canon, we have a little folder here for Canon Control, and there's Canon Tilt and Canon Pivot. Okay, the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some positive and negative values so that the slider will be centered in the middle. Type properties or Canon Tilt and Canon Pivot. I'm going to put the range. Oh, let's go from negative 180 to positive 180. And click accept. Now our slider is into the middle here. Okay, so we've got those created. So now let's go ahead and do some modifications to our geometry in order to deal with those local variables. So the first, let's deal with the pivot, the Canon body. And the Canon body is going to twist around the y-axis. So I'm just going to put a channel reference in here to the y rotation. And that should be CH, open and close parentheses, inside of there, open and close double quotes, dot dot slash, and this should be, what I'd call this, pivot? Yeah, there we go. Alright, there we go, there's our pivot. And now what we have to do is deal with our tilt. And our tilt happens here in the rotate X. So it's going to be almost the same thing. So CH, open and close parentheses. Inside of that, open and close double quotes. Inside of that, dot dot slash tilt. Alright, cool. Now everything should be fine. If we go up here, and if we go into type properties and click apply, everything should be okay. Now, if we go ahead and manipulate here at the Canon Tilt works just fine by moving the slider, and our Canon Pivot moves so side. Okay, the only thing we need to watch out for is the slider moving backwards and forwards. Now we want the slider to move backwards and forwards according to where we are with the tilt channel. So let's go into double channel and click the Canon slider here, and well, let's see, slider. So let's say it is translate here. We gotta translate the Z, and let's see. I'm gonna go clamp. I want to bound it between whatever the tilt has and 25, because I don't want to go further than negative 25. So I'm going to go clamp, open and close parentheses, inside of that, I'm going to go open and close double quotes, inside of that, dot dot slash tilt. So it's going to look just like our Canon tilt, but I've got a typo error here. Clamp, alright, no, I'm using clamp incorrectly, and this should be CH inside of tilt, and then we want to clamp it between negative 25 and 0. Okay, let's see how this overall works. So this is a little bit kind of like how you do rigging inside of Houdini. So the tilt, okay, we're getting a little bit of penetration there. So let's make it let's make it slide just a little bit more. Let's see. Let's see. Do we do it by 10 times? Oh, let's just see if we do it by 9 times. In my notes here, I have said try 9. I said okay, we'll try 9. Okay, now if we go into the Canon tilt. Oh, that's way too much. I think we only need to do it maybe 1.1. I think I'm smoking crack here with this 9. Let's try 1.1. No, we need to do it a little bit more. We're getting a little bit of penetration there. And it's hard to tell how far it is. So how can we do this? We want this to be a little bit more interactive. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double click my Canon and go into the Canon slider. And notice here, this is a little nifty thing that you can do with Houdini 18. I'm going to select this 1.1. I'm going to highlight it. And then I'm going to middle mouse click it. And that opens up the Houdini dialer. And then I'm going to dial in what I think would be a good value. Okay, 1.8. Alright, let's see if that works. Go up. Alright, that just skims right along the edge and just opens and closes and avoids interpenetration. Okay, we're doing good. Alright, so we've achieved the first 2 steps. We've created a local variable, tilt and pivot. We've referenced them into our system sufficiently. We've got them located into the Canon body, the slider, and the barrel. That's all 3 of them. And now let's go ahead and create the new channel. Click up to the object level. I'm going to right click on here, go back to the type properties. Okay, now for here, the interactive stuff is stored all this tab way over here where it says interactive. Now we're going to deal with viewer states next week. What we're going to deal with is handles this time. Now the handles here are just kind of like the way they are there. But I'm going to go and click this, and I just want an angle. An angle? Okay, well that's good. Now we're only going to be taking 2 aspects of an angle, and an angle can rotate 3 ways with roll, pitch, and yaw. But we don't want roll, but we do want pitch and we do want yaw. So I think this should work. Click on angle, and there we have this. And here are all the parameters for it. Notice that there's position, and then our rotation, and then our translation. Now the only thing that we want to manipulate here is the rotation. So since we want the yaw, or so that would be the rotate the Y. So if I click on this, and there's a pull down menu, and we're going to go and scroll all the way to the bottom. There it is. We want this to go to can tilt. Rotate Y. That's a pivot. Pivot. And then for the Z, we want to handle the tilt. Oh, I'm sorry, we want the X axis because we're tilting along the X axis here. So I'm going to rotate this, and we are going to hit the tilt. Okay, cool. Now let's click accept here, and now everything should be okay. I'm going to click into here. I'm going to hit enter. And there is my tool. There it is, right here. There's my rotation tool. Now if I pull this up here, this controls the tilt, but if we drag it along here, it controls the pivot. Okay. And so if we want to just drill this right here, all right. Move this around here. Okay, fantastic. By George, I think it works. Okay, we have our object here working for us beautifully. All right, so that is a demonstration of how to create a digital asset on an object level. But what if you wanted to do it back on the SOP level, or where it is, like if we wanted to blast away something or create a node that manipulates it onto the object level. So, okay, before we go in and do anything else, I'm going to go ahead and hit Save Node Type, and I'm going to right click and say Match Current Definition, and this node is now locked. And we are good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Save. Alright, and I'm going to get rid of this jack. Okay, very good. So what I said before here is we are going to we manipulated the object on the object level, but what if we want to do it at the SOP level? So you knew this was going to happen sooner or later. Let's call back our friend Roberto. And I do have to call Roberto for this because I do know that the size of my notes here will correspond to Roberto just fine. So I'm going to click on here. Come on, where's Roberto? There you go. Alright, there's Roberto, but where is he? He's hiding now, but that's because that model was just way too big. That cannon was too huge. But there it is. There's Roberto. He was kind of dinky. So I want to double click and drop into Roberto. And here is our file SOP that pulls in the Roberto object. And so what we're going to do is, instead of creating the digital asset on the model or the object level, what we're going to do, we're going to create it on the SOP level. And so the interface causes a little bit different changes, but ultimately it's still the same. So I'm going to call this the chopper. So I'm going to lay down a subnetwork. Yeah. All right. Subnetwork. And I'm going to call this chopper. Alright, and I also want this to have just one input. So I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to change this into a digital asset. Okay. And then I'm going to click Job, HDA. I'm going to get that variable and put this into here. Chopper HDA, okay, I think we're doing good, except here we have our basic properties. And so ultimately we have this working, so we want to be able to handle anything, but in this case we're doing it. And because it's kind of free form here. It doesn't have to be that way. So what I'm going to do is click on 1 here and click on maximum inputs. Click on 1 there and click apply. Alright, accept. Now this SOP here doesn't have anything going inside of it, but now we can take any input now. This could be Roberto, this could be the squab, this could be anything. So I'm going to go ahead and connect my Roberto into the input for Chopper, and then I'm going to drop into Chopper. And there is my little network in. So I'm going to drag this off here, and then I'm just going to drop in a simple delete SOP. Okay, so all we're going to do is create a way of deleting the sign, but we're going to create an interactive bounding box that's going to show what parts that we want to delete on the object. Okay, so we've got that, and I'm going to lay, I'm going to call this delete me. And for this, where it says number enable, I'm going to go ahead and click that to be false. Bounding volume, I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to say yes. I want that to be very true. And it looks like Roberto is getting eaten away in the middle wherever it interpenetrates the bounding sphere, bounding box. Okay, that's good. So we've got our digital asset. Now let's create our local variables. We're going to click on here to Chopper, and then type properties. All right. There we go. All right, I'm going to drag a float vector 3. So float vector 3. I'm going to drop that and put that underneath root. And then I'm going to call that bbox size. So it's for bounding box size. I'm going to say bbox size, and for the label is bounding box size, and for default values, I'm going to make sure it has a value of 1 in here. Oops. Alright, and now I'm going to add another vector. We've got its size, and now let's go for its center. So I'm going to type this as bbox center. And as a label, I want bbox space center. Okay, and then since the center, we can leave the default values at 0, 0, 0, which is right at the origin. Click apply. Errors have occurred. You want to match anyway. What errors have occurred? Okay. Well, what errors have occurred? Well, let's just see if anything works. It could be wrong, but I don't know what the errors are going on here. So let's see. Box center. Okay, that's okay. Everything looks fine. All right. So I'm not sure why it was giving me those errors, but then of course I could be just very fatigued. But we've created our local variables. Now let's reference those local parameters inside of the environment here. So inside Chopper, where it says size, okay, well what I'm going to do is I'm going to say ch, open and close parentheses, inside open and close double quotes, inside of that, dot dot slash bbox size x. Alright, cool. Now, for brevity's sake, I'm going to copy that and move that over to y, and change that to bounding box size y. And come over here, bounding box size z. Alright, now let's go do this exact same thing for the center. Ch, open and close parentheses, inside of that, open and close double quotes, CHE please. Okay, inside of that, dot dot slash bbox center X. Okay, copy that over to the Y, change the channel name, bbox center Y. Okay, and then change that over to the Z direction. So we have X, Y, and Z. Alright, now if we go back up over here, and if we change our center, we move that back and forth. Okay, are we deleting? Delete me. Okay. Okay, something funky is going on here. So we have our size and our center, bounding sphere, that does the right. Okay, primitives, elementary type, geometry type, should equal all types. Okay, delete the unused points, keep groups, okay. Display Roberto, display that, and there we go. And now if we move this box center around, it moves it back here. Alright, this moves it up and down. And this moves it in the Z direction. And just to double check things, this modifies the scale in the X direction. This modifies it in Y. And this modifies it in the Z direction. Okay, very good. So we've gone through the first two steps. We've created a digital asset. We've created the local parameters. We've referenced the local parameters. Now all we have to do is create the handles and bind them. So I'm going to go back into my type properties for Chopper. I'm going to go to interactive and go to handles. Now instead of an angle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in a bounding box. Alright, so here we have our bounding box, and now all I have to do is just dial in our bindings. So click on center X. And so this should be a bounding box center X, bounding box center Y, bounding box center Z. And then for the size, this one should be bounding box X size, bounding box size Y, and size Z. Alright, I'm going to click apply and accept. Alright, now Roberto should go ahead and behave as expected. So if I click that, now click enter to turn on the interface, and there is our box. Now I can move my box back and forth. Oh, I'm scaling the box, but I just want to move the box around. Okay. Alright, so the box moves and it scales. Alright, excellent. Now there's just a couple of things that I might want to expose to my digital asset just to make things fancy. And one of these is to kind of flip of what I'm deleting here. So what if we didn't want to delete what's in the bounding box? Suppose we wanted to delete what was actually inside of the, what was not in the bounding box. So if I go to my type properties, I'm going to leave that as is, but I'm going to go into Chopper, where we got the delete, and where it says here Delete the enable bounding box, delete selected. I want to change that so that it says delete unselected. So I'm going to get my type properties, go to my parameters, and then I'm going to just grab, right where it says operation, I'm going to grab the word operation and I'm going to drag that over and then put that underneath right above between root and bbox size. Okay, so there's the operation. It's going to go called delete selected or delete unselected. I'm going to click apply. And although this turned green, this should be working. And now, if we go up here, there's our delete selected. It's now been exposed to the top. So if we hit non-selected, it goes right there, and this is now deleting everything except which is currently within the bounding box. Alright, excellent. Now I'm going to right click this, it says save node type, and match current definition. Alright, now we should have everything that we needed to know, and then I'm going to, no, cancel. We've already saved this. Okay, there is a, now we could apply anything to this. Now there's Roberto. Now we could do the same thing if we wanted to delete, let's just say if we wanted to put the squab in here. I just type in that, dial up the squab. Now that's there. If I just drop the squab in there, and there we see that it's ugly. It looks like a leftover from crawfish boil. But if we click on the chopper, delete the non-selected, do the selected, then we have as a whole right through our crayfish. Okay, so this will work with anything now, and it doesn't have to be just with Roberto. Now, let's give a quick introduction about viewer states. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And then I'm going to get a quick drink of water. Now, viewer states allow any type of mouse, keyboard, or tablet interaction to be able to actually expose it to the surface. It's very powerful, but it does require some Python understanding. So if you haven't been programming in Python for a while, now is the time to kind of brush off some of the dust. Excuse me. I know, sit first, then swallow. So they've got a couple of demos here to demonstrate viewer states here. And so what I'm going to do is look up here. So I'm going to go here to File, Open, and then where it says Job, I'm just going to say $HH. So that's the Houdini stuff. And then I'm going to look for where it says Viewer States. There we go. Examples. And then I'm going to give the Add Point demo a try. Click that, accept. Okay, you knew we weren't going to be able to get by without the piggy. And now the pig head is going to go right into the draw points digital asset. Now the draw points digital asset is right there. Now if we click on to there, what we're going to do is just going to add a bunch of points, but we're going to add it to the surface on the piggy here. So all we're going to do is click that and then click enter, and we should be now, as you can see, as I'm clicking here, all of these points get put on the pig. Wherever we snap this to, and you'll see that those are now sitting right on top of the thing. Now it is possible to create points in space, ones that don't have any kind of connection, and that's because what they're using is a very simple type of ray tracing that projects this current point down to a center position on whatever object is going into it, and wherever the ray intersects the surface, that's where it draws a point. And so this is a very quick way of drawing points on a surface of which you could then take and then do, what you want on them. All right, that's the add. And now let's take a look at, there's another one I wanted to look at. Open. Nope. So I'm going to double click that, then I'll go $HH / viewer states. Examples. And there's scrub demo. Discard. Alright. Now this is a fairly complicated operation, but what's cool here is what we can do if we click on the scrub, and then we press here, what we can do is just a scrub animation. But now we don't have to grab the time slider. All we do is press on the screen and then we grab this. And now if we want to change this around for animation type, well, we can go through various walks and turns. Now let's suppose we wanted to look at through zombie animations. Damaged leg, ooh, that's scary. Let's put walk to idle or zombie walk turn 90 degrees. Okay, this says walk to idle, and now all I have to do is just scrub this back and forth. And we got it. Okay, so excellent. This basically allows us to scrub any kind of animation. And here are the walk and turns. Click that on. It's a standard walk. Okay. Alright, excellent. So as you can see, we're scrubbing back and forth, and we're using the mouse click in order to bring up the interactivity with the digital asset, and we're also driving a menu that we can interact, and that little kind of like bubble box shows which frame that we're currently looking at. So in a nutshell, viewer states promote and they expose display handles that we showed there a little bit earlier. You can interact with the geometry like what we were doing with the pig head and dropping points on it. It can display guide geometry. It can respond to user interactions like what we're doing here with the scrubber. It can allow us to select geometry, so if you want to select a whole bunch of objects into a scene, it will actually return information for that. It will create a new menu, and see how it just created this little bubble here that is a little added extra. So it will create a new viewport window, and this can wrap changes into an undo block, and then it allows you to manipulate objects on multiple context levels. So what I mean by that is, see, what we're doing is we're at the object level here, and we're looking at this. So everything is kosher and fine, but if we were to go into this object here, we're inside of the object level. So he is working at a much deeper level. And if we wanted to go inside of this at an even deeper level yet, let's go into the skin. Okay, so here we are at the SOP level, and now, even though it's at the SOP level, it still basically behaves the same. So this interface handles itself on multiple different levels. And say, this is just a preview of what we can expect next week. And next week I'll come up with a good juicy demo to show you how to use viewer states. Now beforehand, I encourage you to brush up on some of your Python, because we're definitely going to have to be doing some Python in order to deal with these. And so I'll do my best to explain all the Python E's, but in general, get used to the Python and it will start to be better. And that pretty much wraps up what I wanted to cover for Houdini Secrets Live today. Thank you very much for coming. If you like what you saw, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That is Chris Rhoda. I have a LinkedIn page, that's Chris Rhoda, and at the Orlando Houdini Users group. And also, I've got Facebook pages for Chris Rhoda and the Orlando Houdini Users Group. And as always, if there's anything that you want me to cover, anything that you want me to see, send me a note. Drop me a line at chris@techartedu.com, and I will do my best to comply and see if I can deliver what I can. Now, I have to warn everybody that come early late August and early September, the level of my Houdini broadcasts are gonna get a little bit simple, a little bit more basic, and that's because I'm going to try to introduce Houdini to a bunch of new FIA students who have had no exposure to Houdini before. And this is all part of my overall strategy to help bring Houdini and introduce Houdini to the Central Florida area. And so if you want something a little bit more sophisticated, send in me your request now. Give me an opportunity, a week or so to chew on it, and then hopefully that weekend we'll be able to show it. All right, thank you very much. Thanks again for joining. We'll see you again next week for Houdini Secrets Live. Have a great weekend.